Today we're going to start a new series, if we like. So we've been exploring the Metta meditation practice up till now, and um, normally we would be going on to explore the mindfulness of breathing meditation. But I thought that we'd do something different this year. Last year we did do that, and we explored um, the mindfulness by looking at concentration meditation, how to become concentrated in meditation, which is kind of what the mindfulness of breathing meditation practice is about. But I thought this time we would take a bit of a step back from that and start by just taking a look at awareness itself. So I came across this phrase that I liked, the anatomy of awareness. So we could call this course, this series, the anatomy of awareness. So the body, the physical body has an anatomy to it, a structure to it. There's the study of anatomy, the study of the living body. But does awareness have a kind of anatomy to it, a kind of structure, something to be discovered about it? I mean, in one sense, you could say awareness doesn't have a structure. Awareness is one of those things that doesn't have a kind of structure to it. It just kind of is. But maybe that's getting a bit ahead of ourselves. So yeah, it's often strange, I think, that we don't really think about awareness, or even sort of consider that we have this thing called awareness. So if you were to ask somebody in the street, say you were a student doing a survey and you accosting people in the street and saying, "Are you aware?" As long as people understood the question, I mean, they go, "Well, of course I'm aware." It's obvious, isn't it? I mean, it's a bit like asking, "Am I alive?" But we often don't, actually sort of turn and try and take a look at what this thing called awareness is. It's just something, it's something that's always there with our experience. In fact, you can't experience anything without awareness being there. In a way, experience and awareness are totally intimate. So everything that we perceive through all of our senses, all of our thoughts, all of our feelings, etc., are accompanied by awareness. It's a bit like the sun. The sun comes up every morning and it illuminates, everything, and illuminates the trees, the buildings, people's faces, even the rubbish in the gutter. Everything is illuminated, and everything is illuminated equally. The sun doesn't distinguish, between things that are beautiful, things that are not beautiful. It just illuminates everything equally. And awareness is like this. It just is there. It comes up every morning when we, as it were, come up every morning. And it sees everything that arises within our experience. And it all happens without any effort at all. So I think, one of the things is that we tend to kind of have this language within, sort of Buddhist circles or mindfulness circles or whatever, that awareness is something that we have to develop, as if we didn't have awareness and we need to get hold of this thing called awareness. And yeah, from a certain point of view, you could say that is true. But from another point of view, awareness is just simply here. We don't have to do anything to be aware. We just are aware. And this is miraculous, you know, because we could perhaps just as well not be aware. It's a miracle that we are aware, if you like. I mean, I don't know. I've been reading stuff about quantum physics and things like this, and not that I understand it. But yeah, there's this idea that, you know, some kind of quantum fluctuations in the first moments of the Big Bang sort of determine the structure of the universe. And if that had been slightly different, then maybe you would have got a different universe where, I don't know, maybe a universe where awareness didn't exist. I don't know. Speculation, I have no idea. So, I mean, why is it that we take awareness for granted? Well, it may be that you know, awareness is actually obscured in some kind of way from us a lot of the time. In fact, I suggest that is the case, that a lot of the time awareness is obscured from us. So we don't really sort of notice that we are aware, because we are being aware of particular parts of our experience and are very focused on those parts of experience. So this is, you know, our internal life, our thoughts, our emotions. Yeah, and so we find this out when we first start to meditate. You know, someone says, be aware of your breathing. And we're able to do it for a little while. And then we notice, you know, the mind kicking off, or we sort of lose awareness, or more accurately, we could say the awareness wanders off into the mind sense. It wanders off into thinking about things, thinking about the past, what happened, you know, maybe just before we arrived here, about some experience we had in the past that is sort of unresolved or something like that, or it goes off into the future, starts thinking about, you know, what's going to come next. And, you know, talking about thinking in this way, it also includes the kind of emotional, what we could call the emotional correspondence of the thinking mind, which is, you know, our feelings coming up. So we have anxiety about the past, or we have anxiety about the future, etc. And all this stuff kicks off, and it obscures our ability to just be there and be aware in this present moment. You know, I mean, so I don't know, police siren. We're sitting there in a police siren. We get a lot of police sirens down this way because we're not far from a police station. And you hear a police siren and you think, oh, that's unpleasant. Something in you doesn't like that sound. It's disturbing your meditation space. Why do they have to make them so loud? And then you start thinking about, oh, maybe there's an accident, somebody's got hurt, or maybe it's been a crime. And I just read that the crime rate's up in Bristol, and we're off, you know, we're off into a story. We've been taken away from that direct experience. And in the first few seconds, or some microseconds sometimes, there is just the experience of that police siren. There is just that manifestation, and just the awareness, as it were, that's aware of that manifestation. So in a way, this is what we're trying to kind of get back to with meditating, is getting back to that just aware space, which is always happening here and now, is always available. And you could, in a sense, also say is always what we are. So, yeah, okay. And then other things happen, you know, so we're meditating and we come back to the breath, and then we get a bit bored of it. It seems a bit boring to sit here just focusing on the breathing. And the mind, you know, the mind, the thinking mind, is always looking for interest. It's always looking for drama. It's always looking for something to be happening. And in a way, this is just a habit energy that we've developed over time. And also it's because in some way, you know, again, we've become alienated from just the experience of awareness. So when we are able to focus on the breathing and drop into that aware space, everything suddenly starts to become more alive and more present. And the ability to stay there just becomes something natural and enjoyable. Okay, so I was thinking that today, um, well, maybe there's a bit more to say. Yeah, okay, so over this series, I'm thinking what we were going to do is just take a look at awareness and what it's actually like in our experience. What is it actually like to come into contact with awareness? How does it differ from, you know, the various parts of our experience that we have? For instance, you know, is awareness and thought the same thing, or are they different things? Is awareness and feeling something different? You know, are they different things, or are they the same thing? And trying to distinguish, as it were, to draw out the awareness element of our experience. It's not really an element, but it's from all the things that arise within it, and come to a natural point of seeing that everything else arises in awareness, but everything is not awareness itself. So I hope that makes some kind of sense. It's something to, you know, explore experientially. Yeah. So I mean, this way of approaching things is somewhat different to, you know, the meditation teaching where we teach the mindfulness breathing on metta bhavana, where we're looking to pursue a particular goal in the meditation practice. It's like taking a stand back from that and just trying to look from the point of view of awareness itself. And just to explore our experience, just to see, you know, how it actually is for us. So there's Badra last week, I think, was talking about the model of these four myths that have been talked about within our movement, that there are different ways of approaching the spiritual life. So we have this kind of developmental model where we are focusing on the developing of certain kind of qualities like metta and like mindfulness in the practices of mindfulness breathing, metta bhavana. But there are these other models. There's a model of surrender, there's a model of discovery, and the model of emergence. So I don't know if, Michael, have you got that? Would you be able to flash that up on the screen? So yeah, this and Badger went through this last week, so maybe this is a repetition, but maybe it's a useful one to do. So you've got these four qualities. You've got development, surrender, discovery, and emergence. And development is, as it says, it's a kind of disciplined and active approach. We've got these two kind of axes to this model. So development is active and it's external, as it were. Surrender is receptive and external. So both of these are focused on something outside of ourselves. So the idea of sort of doing something, moving towards something. But then you've got these other two. You've got discovery, which is active, but it's very much within. So it's going to look at our experience as it is and to see what's actually there. So rather than focusing on outside, say like on an object like the breath, we try to look inside and just see what is already there in our experience. And this is done, as it says there, by dissolving the obscuring veils of delusion. What does that mean? Well, in a way, it's seeing past all the things that I was talking about earlier, the things that get in the way or obscure awareness, or obscure the direct experience of awareness. And then you have this last quadrant, which is emergence, which is both receptive and within. So this is probably the development is probably the most obvious because we're very used to doing things. We're very orientated as a society and maybe as individuals towards doing things. And you could perhaps draw an axis sort of diagonally through the bottom corner of emergence to the top corner of development, from doing to being. So the emergent quality is very much about in a way the simple act of just simply being without anything added to it, and also just simply noticing that everything that arises in experience is also a part of experience. So in that emergent kind of quadrant, you can't sort of get a step wrong, as it were. And sometimes this emergent quadrant is associated with the idea of having an original Buddha nature that is just there, and you just have to as it were sink back into it and realize that Buddha nature. I would say what we're going to do over the next few weeks is very much to do with this discovery quadrant. So we're just going to be looking at what's there in our experience and seeing whether it's true or not, whether certain things are true or not. Us who are leading the classes will be guiding us through this. So it's not like we're just walking into a vacuum. We'll be, there's pointers towards what we can discover. Okay, thanks, Michael. All right, so what are we going to do today? So, well, I thought what we could do is just sit. In fact, I think maybe the first thing to do in a great British tradition is to go and make a cup of tea before you do any work. And this isn't really work because we're just going to be looking. We're going to go and get a cup of tea and then come back and sit somewhere. I mean, you can sit in meditation posture if you want to, but I think it might be better to just find a really comfortable place to go. So awareness is here. We don't have to sit in meditation. So awareness is with us all the time. That's the first thing we're going to be looking at. So, it's there if we're sitting in an armchair doing nothing as well. So get a cup of tea, find an armchair, and then we'll start.